All-Star Marques Johnson.
Alongside Marques Johnson.
What's up, everybody? Hey, this is the Here District, captain of this vessel. And I got my first mate, my number one son, Chris Johnson.
What up? Talk to me.
Holla!
Let it rain, man. Let it rain.
I guess what? We're going back into the Friday.
You can't pass us all the breakfast.
Can't pass us.
Go fight.
Welcome, everybody, to the Here District, Marques Johnson.
You're listening to a Bucks Plus audio production on the Bucks Plus Network.
Your weekly pulse on the Milwaukee Bucks, straight from a Bucks legend. This is Here District with Marques Johnson, alongside his son and 1995 NCAA champion, Kris. Here's MJ.
Hey, everybody. It's the captain of this vessel, Here District. All the Bucks news that you want to know and a lot that you don't even want to know about. We're going to bring it to you anyway. I'm the captain of this vessel, Marques Johnson, first mate Kris Johnson. What's up, first mate?
Anything and everything, brother. It's a beautiful day in Los Angeles.
Right, it's a beautiful day in Los Angeles, and it's a beautiful day in Las Vegas too, man. You know, it's hot. It's hot in Vegas. For people that don't know, Los Angeles is usually about 20 degrees cooler than Vegas is in the summertime. But for the youngsters out there, man, it's hot. You know, for the youngsters trying to make an impact, trying to make an impression, I should say.
Right.
Yeah, not impact, but more of an impression. And you talked about it, man, where you scored 40 points on, who was that, Deion Sanders or Benny Boatwright or somebody? No, that was Randy Moss, right? Randy Moss. You dropped a 40 piece on Rosie Greer. Rosie Greer in the summer league, and then you don't know nothing about Rosie Greer. That's why.
I grew up with Rosie's son. I was close with Rosie's son, so
I
do know all about Rosie.
The fearsome. Well, name one other member of the fearsome foursome from the Los Angeles Rams in the mid '60s. One other member, the most popular member.
Merlin Olsen, Deacon Jones.
Oh, that's a good one. Oh, two. That's two. Okay, Merlin Olsen, Deacon Jones.
Was the dude from Knight Rider or Hunter? Was the dude from Hunter on the fearsome foursome?
Fred Dyer, whatever his name. No, he was more of a linebacker type.
Oh, see, you slept on me. You slept on my knowledge.
Yeah. That's good. Deacon Jones, Merlin Olsen was Father Murphy. Who was he? He played a role on TV for years.
Okay, I don't know. Let's bring it
back. He was. But anyway, we digress. We digress, which is always good. This is what people say they love about this show, is that we just take it down the rabbit hole. We're not afraid to go down the rabbit hole, man. Rabbit hole without a flashlight. That's dangerous. But what we talking about? Summer League. So Tuesday night, I finally got a chance to watch these young Bucks in action. On Tuesday night, they played the Clippers at the Las Vegas Summer League. Yep. And so I had some early impressions, man. And
talk to me, MJ. Talk to me. What you see out there?
Well, I guess the surprise player for me was this young man out of Toledo University. Grew up in Detroit, Ryan Rollins.
Right.
And you know this, and I wanted to get your reaction. I mean, you're a freshman at Toledo, the MAC, Midwestern Athletic Conference. You're averaging 14 points and 5 rebounds as a freshman. That's pretty darn good, right? I mean, you're a ball player. You come in averaging 14 and 5. You're a good player. But I didn't realize just his potential until I saw him in the summer league. So he was the first thing. He had like 25 points against the Clippers on Tuesday night. A variety of different ways. He looked good finish. He just looked, when I look at summer league players, Kris, I look at feel, I look at poise. You know what I mean? I look at guys who don't get flustered out there, guys that are under control, right? I mean, you tell me, right? What are you looking for?
Well, because, stats are, what is the word? Subjective, right? Especially in the summer league setting, because a guy can go out and get 30, 35, but he might not be necessarily the right fit for your team. More times than not, he's not gonna be asked to get 35. It's almost like a guy that scores the most points is kind of playing out of character in summer league, if you will. And that sounds stupid, but the reality is this: you're going to be playing alongside veterans, and you got to play a role. A guy like Ryan Rollins came in, showed a ton of poise, a tremendous amount of feel on both ends, and really solidified himself as somebody that it seems like if it doesn't work out this time around, he's somebody that the Bucks will have in mind and in the pipeline somehow, some way. You never know. This might be able to bring this guy back in February on a 10-day.
Yeah.
And he comes in and pays some dividends. But that's sort of the impression that you're looking to leave MJ when you do a summer league. It's a long-lasting relationship with an organization because you just never know.
Well, and I like the fact too that he cut his teeth in the Golden State organization. Played for the Santa Cruz Snail Slugs or whatever they call them. The Warriors,
banana slugs, right?
The Banana Slugs, whatever. That's the college team. But he played for their G League team. Sure. Is it G League still? What are we talking? Yeah. I get so many iterations, but played for their G League team. But that Warrior organization, which means he had some interactions with Steph and Clay and Draymond and maybe a Jordan Poole before he was out of there. But sure. Kind of that championship medal kind of rubs off on you just being around it. And I know that from some of our guys that have been around the Milwaukee Bucks these last 2 or 3 years. So I liked him. Another guy that I like was a guy that is getting a lot of what's the word we're looking for on Twitter? A lot of buzz. What's another word for buzz on Twitter?
Positive press.
Cloud positive press. People are jocking this young man. And remember when we first drafted him, and I told you I watched about 2 minutes of, not even that, man. I'd probably say 45 seconds of video, highlight video. As a next level player, whatever it is, down in Australia, playing with old men. But this kid could play, and you could see it right away. And you saw it in that Tuesday night game against the Clippers. 22 points, had 4 rebounds, 4 assists, a couple of blocks. But just even more tangibly, forget about stats. We talk about stats kind of being irrelevant in a sense. But for him at 19, 160 pounds, I mean, you just saw the speed, the ability to separate in a small compartment. And Dame Lillard, quiet as kept, has that same ability, even though Dame has talked about not being in great shape. I saw a lot of that this season where he gets into that small compartment, then he starts to separate from that defensive player. And A.J. Johnson showed me that, showed a great stroke on his outside shot, showed great awareness, court awareness. And we're talking about presence.
Right.
This young man, Kris, at 19 years old, 160 pounds, soaking wet, was a major presence out there. And I think speed and athleticism, the finishes, that Euro step finish, he had some great finishes in traffic at 160 where he was avoiding. Right. He was avoiding the head-on contact. So when you're 160, you got to learn how to get your stuff off without having to go through people, but kind of going at angles to get around them, correct?
No, you're absolutely right. I think the year in Australia, it definitely prepared him for this summer league moment.
Yeah.
He looked like someone that had competed, had been bumped around, someone that was ready for the physicality.
Yeah.
Because when you're 162 and you're 6'4", 19 years old, if you didn't have that year in Australia, you don't look like A.J. Johnson looked the other day.
Ah, good point.
I'm just telling. I mean, the 100%. Like,
you're practicing against men. You're practicing against men. Forget about the games. You're going against men every freaking day, 6-7 days a week, right?
And they said there, AJ and Tyler Smith, when we talked to them, they said right there in the Hair District headquarters, right? They told us the approach. They told us what they had been through. They told us how serious that they were taking this situation and opportunity. So it does not surprise me that both of those guys, well, AJ, it does not, I'll say with AJ, it does not surprise me that AJ looks solid. And to your point about the finishes, when you're, again, 6'4", 162, you have to develop a certain like body contortion style that, you know, where you got to be able to 1-2 and like shake. You got to be able to shift, shake, and move and contort your body. You saw him make it. You got
Marcel Marisol. Yes. Get into small space. You got to fit into small spaces, babe. Make yourself small.
And the fluidity, and what AJ, he pops. So when you see him with the rock, when he's coming at the point of attack, and when he is out of there. Everything is quick burst. Everything is like on a jet. It's almost Iverson-esque in the sense of that extra gear where he's jet, pew, pew, pew.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
yeah. Well, and just that speed to separate is just so obvious when you're
Yeah.
watching him on the basketball floor. I'm watching him on the dribble separate from defenders running forward at full speed, and he's creating separation on the push.
Yes.
You know he's got some serious speed, and he has learned someplace. I don't know if it was through working out with Jalen Green up in Fresno and what they were doing, over the last 5 or 6 years since they hooked up, or if it was at the great Derek Taylor at Taft High School and some of the stuff that maybe he had him doing, a combination of all that. Or maybe it's just some natural basketball instincts. A lot of it's natural basketball instincts. But it's also, and you can speak to this also, because we talk about this with your sister, my daughter Shiloh, a budding young 14-year-old. It's about playing a lot of basketball. It looks like he's played. He looks like a gym rat that's just played a lot of basketball just because he's got that natural level of comfort out there with the basketball when he's attacking. He knows what to do. He knows he has a plan every time. He's got a plan, Chris.
And I tell you what, the guys with the best feel, when we talk about feel as sort of a skill set and we describe it, those are usually the dudes that played the most hoop, MJ.
Play
like
100%.
Like, I remember growing up, man, you always were on my head. You were like, drills are cool, but you need to be going to playing some one-on-one.
Yeah.
Get somebody out there, play some 2-on-2, 3-on-3, even if there's a couple of dudes in there, knock out, let alone 5-on-5, 4-on-4. But you had emphasized that I play. And now looking back on it, I realized that was your way of developing a feel. So they say feel is kind of something that you're born with. I beg to differ. A.J. Johnson, back to A.J., 9th grade. When I saw him at King Drew High School, I told you this story before. The guy was already doing NBA combos and step backs and just was out there understanding how to use a pick and roll. He looked like he was like playing ball since he came out the womb, right?
Yeah.
He looked like since he was old enough to dribble a basketball, he has been looking for runs and he has been going up. And that's probably why he went overseas instead of going to college, bro. Because he wasn't trying to do all that stuff in school and books, man. He's like, you know what? I just need to work on my game 24/7, and it showed in the summer league.
Well, let me remind you, it's a family show, so watch your talk about wombs.
What did I say?
But you said womb. I'm just giving you a hard time. I'm giving you a hard time.
No, that's a good.
I'm giving you a hard time. Okay, so AJ Johnson, we like him. 22 points. Had a really, really positive show. He had a 13-point game, I think, in one of their earlier summer league games. So he's always hovering around, double figures for a kid like him. Yeah. To me, that shows a lot. That shows the tremendous upside. I think in 5 years, 3 years, whatever it's going to take, this young man is going to be something special. And we get a chance, much like Giannis. I'm not predicting 2-time MVP and a 50-piece in a closeout game, anything like that. But I really believe 3 to 5 years from now, we're going to look back at this young man and be like, man, we've got something special on our hands. So props to Jon Horst and our whole evaluation staff for taking a chance on him. Tyler Smith, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on Tyler. He had some good moments. Sure. He runs the floor exceptionally well. He's got terrific bounce, knocked down a jumper or two in that game. He looks like he's still developing. Just turned 20 years old, still kind of finding his way out there, and it's going to take some time for him to do so. But, you have to like what you see,
Well, you like the flashes of brilliance, MJ. Yeah, you like the runs of a block shot and running the lane and, getting a dunk and then, getting a three. Yeah. You like all those things. Now it's going to take time. And I agree with you. Once he puts it together, man, that dude's going to be tough. But you got to be patient in summer league, man. I hear the talk on Twitter and, guys are reading into the wins and losses a lot. Summer league is really the ultimate developmental ground where you experiment with things. You can speak to this, MJ. I remember Loyola Summer League out here in LA. You would spend your summers would you spend your summers, if I recall, working on adding different facets or skills to your game that maybe you wanted to work on for that particular season? Was that something you did as a pro already, or is that something, or did you use it to stay in shape, or what was your purpose after you've been in the league of playing a summer league?
Well, and I posted something on Twitter with this great summer league roster that we had one year. Joe Weekly was the coach, but guys like John Williams and Lester Connor and Michael Cooper and Byron Scott and Robert Smith and Freeman Williams. It was kind of a who's who of LA legends that were on that team. Now, in the sake of full transparency, very few times did everybody play at the same time. Usually 7 or 8 guys showed up. And it was during a season when I was trying to get back after being out 2.5 years with the neck injury. And so I was not the MJ of kind of just complete domination, still able to, take Jose Ortiz to the hole a couple of times when we played against Utah. You're from Oregon State, but it was fun. Joe Weekly was the coach, Crenshaw legend, one of the guys we give a lot of props to in terms of being responsible for keeping the dynasty going with Coach Willie West. So it was fun. But with me, it was like I was always trying to hone the jumper. Now, what you guys, all my sons can shoot the basketball, different degrees of shot making, but all you guys can shoot and with good form. It's because I never really, your grandfather was great at footwork, great at up and unders. My dad, Papa Jeff Johnson, high school basketball coach down in Natchitoches, Louisiana, Natchitoches Central for a number of years down there, very successful. I run into men today, Chris, who tell me that he was way ahead of his time, had them jumping over chairs, shooting layups just to get them to get used to jumping and leaping. I do the same thing with Shiloh. But for me, it was always about just getting more and more comfortable with my jump shot. And the guy I worked out with, Malik Abdul Mansour, I mean, that was always the key, learning more extension as I got older on the jumper and all that kind of good stuff. But it's a valuable time. And as you mentioned, the wins and losses are nice if you can get the wins, but the most important thing is that you work on development. And to that point, a couple of guys I want to talk about. Chris Livingston, I thought was exceptional, 13 points, 11 rebounds, but just active, dominating the backboards. His ability to push it on the dribble and make the right decisions was impressive. He has been one of the more. He has
been the most impressive
in terms of the returners. Him, Andre Jackson Jr., MarJon Beauchamp.
Of the five or whatever, the five guys.
Yeah, Ty Washington.
He was the most impressive by far.
Yeah, and he's got a great story because he's from Akron, Ohio, LeBron's hometown. Right. And, at 14 years old, 15 playing varsity, averaged 25 points a game, averaged 32 points a game as a sophomore in high school. LeBron actually came to see him play in Las Vegas at the Fab 48 Summer League, LeBron and Maverick Carter. I mean, it's funny, he's been this special player since he's 13 or 14 years old, went to Kentucky, but now he's kind of struggling, to find a place. He was supposed to be the next one up, but now he's kind of trying to find his place within this Milwaukee rotation. And if he continues to play as hard and as well as he played in the Summer League this past week, he's going to carve out a niche for himself. I'm not sure, how extensive of a niche, but he's going to carve out at least the ability to get a look from Doc Rivers and his staff.
Yeah, energy. He's been competing. Yeah. Everything that Pete Dominguez sat here and told us on the pod last week, what they look for, what the organization values, right?
Yeah.
Chris Livingston has embodied that. Ryan Rollins has brought it. AJ Johnson has brought that type of energy. Now, everybody that's bringing the energy stands out. Everyone that necessarily, I don't know if I will say isn't bringing the energy, you can see too. I mean, you can see who's who and what's what.
Right. And this brings me to my guy that I really like. He's got a great story from Yakima, Washington. I think his grandfather was mayor of Yakima or something, but got a lot of Native American in his background, does a lot of speaking engagements in the Milwaukee area to different Native American youth groups, MarJon Beauchamp. And so it was kind of interesting. I'm watching MarJon, and he came out with what I call the Nicky from the Deer Hunter headband on, the Russian roulette scene. Christopher Walken, and then that scene where they're playing Russian roulette and the Vietnamese soldiers like Mao, 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 and so he had the headband on, and the cornrows were looking nice. But man, I'm pulling for him, and he needs to kind of find his groove. Didn't get his first bucket in that Tuesday night game against the Clippers until about 2 minutes left in the third quarter, knocked down a three. Then I'm thinking he's going to get on a roll, miss his next shot or two. And it reminded me, Chris, of an experience that you shared with me back in 1989. I came back after being out 2.5 years. I'm with the Golden State Warriors, and they had a rookie on that team by the name of Tim Hardaway. And so instead of like Tim Hardaway being my rookie, I was his vet because I'd been out and I'm trying to feel my way back. And Don Nelson had told me that I was going to start that year, but unfortunately, Rod Higgins didn't get the memo. He came out trying to bust my behind every day in practice and wound up being our starter.
And he did.
He deserved to, and no
Rod
question.
was knocking down shots.
Rod was tough.
Hey, I remember that. I was at a couple practices.
And that's the thing, because I'd been out 2.5 years. I'm an all-star, all-pro, all this, all that, and here's this dude from Fresno State that I never heard of out here just dragging my behind up the court at 33 years old, being out 2.5 years. He's about 24, young, spry, athletic. But Tim Hardaway, we play one-on-one after practice every day. And he used to call me one in a row, because I could only make one shot. I'd make one, miss three. I'd make one, miss three. So that was his nickname. That was his nickname for the old man, was one in a row. And then Manute Bol, his nickname for me was Old Vet. This is what I had to endure as a 33-year-old trying to get back in the league. But it gave me some closure after being out a couple of years. But back to MarJon Beauchamp. So MarJon had the headband on, took it off at halftime. And so, I was kind of thinking to myself and talking to a friend of mine watching the game, like, yeah, he's got that headband on. He's got this look that he's trying to project, and it's just not working. So he came back after halftime with no headband. So that reminded me, I got all kinds of stories this evening. That reminded me of when I was working with the Sonics. I used to do this tournament, Martin Luther King Day, called the Holiday Hoops Fest. And one game I was doing, Chris, it was Garfield High School with Ed Roy, Brandon Roy, Trey Simmons, Will Conroy, and Roy Dale Smiley. All these brothers had these white headbands on.
That's a lot of Roys.
A lot of Roys, but came out looking real sweet. They were playing against these white kids out of Mount Vernon, Washington, like an hour, 2 hours, way out. And these dudes from Mount Vernon was putting them on them. In the first half, they was running and gunning and just playing great. Garfield, Ed Roy, Roy Dale, Brandon Roy, Trey Simmons, Will Conroy, a lot of Roys, a whole lot of Roys. They had the headbands off in the second half. And whether it was a coach saying, y'all don't deserve to look sweet because you're not playing sweet. But the thing I remember the most about that game, it was a 1-point game. Mount Vernon got a steal. This little quick guard they had, I have no idea what his name is. He went down for a layup at the buzzer, Chris, released it before the buzzer sounded. The ball rolled around the rim. Everybody's waiting with bated breath to see if it was going to fall in, if we're going to get the upset of the number one ranked team in the state. And the ball wound up being nestled on the back rim, the heel of the rim. It just stayed there. It just died. That's how the game ended. So that's a jump ball. Garfield wound up winning by 1 point. Anyway, back to MarJon, who is from the Northwest. MarJon actually went to Garfield, I believe, or Rainier Beach, or maybe both of them. But MarJon, I'm pulling for him. I hope this is year 3 in the summer league. Yeah. You want a guy in year 3 to be the guy. You know what I mean? You want him to be the guy. Had a 22-point game, to his credit, early on against Cleveland, I believe, in the summer league. But he just needs to show us some more consistency.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So anyway, so that's the summer league. But there was a play. MarJon coming down left side, did a nice kind of flick the wrist lob pass to Andre Jackson Jr. I love to see Andre Jackson Jr. get up. Great hands, great athleticism, great timing. He caught it with 2 hands, like middle of the square, threw it down, and it was an alley-oop. And so I'm going to end this segment with a little history on the alley-oop. Do you know where the alley-oop came from, Chris? Do you have any idea?
It was at the Mayans.
No, let's not go back that far. Let's just stop around 1960. San Francisco 49ers. There's a wide receiver on the 49ers who happens to be your cousin, my cousin. He's related to us. I've been hearing about him all my life. His name is R.C. Owens. All right. The quarterback for the 49ers, Y.A. Tittle, used to throw a high pass up in the end zone, and R.C. Owens would go up and out-jump everybody and catch the ball for a touchdown. They started calling that the alley-oop. That's where the alley-oop came from, 1960. R.C. Owens, a couple other little tidbits.
So here's my thing: when you do that explanation, that really doesn't give us any idea where the name came from.
No, the etymology, I'm not sure. But
what is alley-oop?
I think probably a sports writer watching it, just kind of came up with something or other. We'll figure that out for the next show. But I wanted to give credit to our R.C. Owens. But see, here's another, and I can't leave it at that. 2 more tidbits. You gotta love this. R.C. Owens. R.C. Owens went to college at the College of Southern Idaho, I believe. His teammate and roommate was a pretty good basketball player by the name of Elgin Baylor. They were teammates in college. Elgin Baylor, R.C. Owens. And then R.C. Owens, Kris, he jumped so high. When teams would try a field goal, he would stand near the goal post and he'd jump up and swat the ball away before it got to the goal post.
Did they take that out?
They instituted a rule, the goaltending rule where you could not do that as a football player. So R.C. Owens, your cousin is responsible not only for the alley-oop, but for a rule change in the NFL. So I want to give him credit. But that lob from MarJon Beauchamp to Andre Jackson. And Andre Jackson Jr., I'm not expecting, major things for him as long as he's playing great D, moving the basketball, and just doing what he needs to do to complement, Khris Middleton. Khris Middleton, I just read, had a couple of surgeries on his ankle during the off season, and so hopefully, he's back on the court and should be ready to go during training camp. So just Khris needs to have an injury-free, productive Khris Middleton type year, man, that he had like 3 or 4 years ago, and that would obviously help the Bucks in their case for another try at an NBA championship. So that's our kind of our summer league evaluations. Anybody else? Vin Baker's son, Vin Jr., did a couple of things I liked. He was active and long, and he looked solid. But it's just an interesting collection of players trying to, as you mentioned. And as we've talked about, it's not about the points you score. It's just about complimenting the guys. And Doc Rivers, in his interview with PJ Carlesimo, talked about it last night. You got 3 or 4 guys who are going to take 20 shots each. There ain't a whole lot of shots left. What are you going to do to carve out a niche for yourself within that framework, right?
There's a role out there to be had. And it's about who seizes that role, who can figure it out. Because you can make the Bucks out on a summer league team if you out there getting steals, blocks, boards, and you're just Mr. Possession. Who's doing it like that?
Sounds like Chris Livingston.
Whoa.
Sounds like Chris Livingston.
Whoa.
Sounds like Chris Livingston. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, again, if he gets at least a really, really serious look at the first part of the season to see how he complements the rest of these guys. So, it's exciting. I'm excited for these guys, and hopefully the guys that played well continue to play well, and the guys that need to pick things up will pick things up. But man, this is the Fantastic Voyage. This is a part of it. This is the summertime portion of the Fantastic Voyage. I'm the captain of this vessel, Marques Johnson, along with Kris Johnson. Coming up, we're going to talk about free agent signings and how the incredible moves that Jon Horst is making with very little money to make them. Man, he's getting the job done. The Fantastic Voyage, here District, right back. All right, welcome back to Here District. Fantastic Voyage, captain of this vessel, Marques Johnson, joined by my son Kris, my first mate, and we're going to talk about some free agent signings that the Bucks have made, and just really give a lot of credit to the salesmanship, or I'm not sure exactly how it went down, but how do you get these guys like a Delon Wright, who made about $8 million last year, to take the veterans minimum, and it has to do with Giannis and Dame and the potential to play for a championship. And so Delon Wright, Kris, he's played for the Raptors, the Grizzlies, the Mavericks, the Pistons, the Kings, the Hawks, the Wizards, the Heat, and now the Bucks. And I love him, and not just because he's an LA guy. He went to Lusinger High School, played for our guy Chris Young, Reggie Morris, and that Reggie Morris mafia over at Lusinger High School. They were Russell Westbrook and Delon's older brother Darrell, both came out of that same grouping. But Delon is a big, defensive-minded point guard, 2-guard combo that I believe this team will get some serious mileage out of. And that's the one thing. And look, I give Malik Beasley a lot of credit. He was never a defensive stalwart. He came in and he was kind of pigeonholed into being a guy who was going to be our stopper, but that wasn't his personality. That's not who he is, And he gave it his best and had his moments, had some really good moments. But we've got a guy in Delon Wright, Kris, who that's what he does. His thing is defense and knocking down open threes. So it's almost like, you get some of the benefits of a Malik Beasley, who was a great three-point shooter for us up until the All-Star break. But you get that great three-point shooting ability, that drive and kick ability that you get when you play with Giannis and Dame. And then at 6'5"-ish.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to love that, right?
Yeah, it's a different dynamic now. I mean, you got options now with Doc as far as like where you play DeLon, type of lineups you can put him in, who you can put him in with. He just brings a skill set that the Bucks didn't have as far as the guard that size that's proven on the defensive end. Pat Bev was cool, Beasley was cool, but Delon Wright is a legit dude defensively, and at 6'5", the Bucks are not going to run into the same issues as far as having to stop those bigger guards and running into those type of dudes anymore. It won't be the same. I don't think so. Like the Pacers, like Halliburton, like you know what I'm saying? Like DeLon is neutralizing Halliburton. Like these type of dudes, you can go down the list of the Eastern Conference.
Right, and even if so, he can neutralize the Halliburton, but he can also keep Andrew Nembhard from having a 20, 25-point game. And
big guard.
If he gets hot, you put DeLon out there on him and tell him to kind of quiet him down. Now DeLon for his career has shot 30, almost 40% one year, but he's always been up around 37, 38%, 35% for his career.
Yeah.
But it's gotten better, as his career has progressed. So, he's going to keep defensive honest. And the thing that I saw, Chris, when I watched him play, he and D'Anthony Melton, another local young man out of USC, Crespi High School out in the Valley, whose grandfather was Beatty. You knew that, right? I'm sure you knew that. Anthony Melton's senior, just a long-time basketball legend, a playground legend here in LA. But I saw them play in the Drew League Championship. And I tell you something, Delon Wright has one of the coldest stop on a dime, slow-mo Euro steps that I've seen. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a really beautifully executed move where he's coming hard, and then he'll just change, put the brakes on, change that speed up, slow it down, get into that long run, 1-2, defenders run by, get off balance, timing is thrown all askew in terms of trying to block his shot. People don't understand the art of scoring and moves like that, how that augments that art of scoring.
Well, they call it deceleration now. So it's like the way he decelerates. You might heard Horst mention it during his press conference. Like they're going to talk about that now as a major skill set, and Delon definitely has it.
He's got it in spades. Does a great job with that. So Delon Wright, we welcome you to the Cream City.
What up, boy?
We are so excited to have you as a Milwaukee Buck. And I'm just glad it worked out because, who'd have thunk it? That was the one thing that we talked about with the draft picks and everything, what this team needed. And what did we do to improve our defense? Well, Delon Wright. He improves your defense, Delon Wright. And then the other free agent signing caught me a little bit by surprise, only because, again, expecting a guy to take the minimum. Played for the Lakers. We played him last year a couple of times. And as I recall, hit some really big shots against us. And, Torian Prince is just a real intriguing kind of plug and play, plug him in at the 3 spot, at the 4 spot, play him in different lineup combinations, match him up against different players, but can also knock down that catch and shoot 3-point, that 3-point shot, that Tre Punte, as we used to call it in Italy, that Tre Punte. And so talk about Torian Prince, man, and you like that move?
Well, he just brings so much of a more valuable dynamic than Jay Crowder brought him last year, because this guy can guard and defend multiple positions at a high level still. So, not to rag on Jay, but his ability to defend multiple positions at a high level isn't the same. He wasn't the Jay Crowder we were expecting from Phoenix. This guy that's coming in proved last year to be of serious value to the Lakers. Convincing him to come through tells me that either he was tired of playing out there with LeBron, or that he believes they could really win a championship out here with the Bucks. He's the type of piece, MJ, that when you factor in his effectiveness on the glass, his ability to guard, and his ability to knock down shots. I mean, that is a dynamic. That was a unreliable dynamic that the Bucks. That was a dynamic the Bucks lacked last year. It was unreliable. Like, you didn't have that dude that you could count on to bring that. Now they got Torian Prince. You got to be feeling good about his pickup.
Yeah, no, you do, and look, I'm a big Jay Crowder fan because of how he performed against us in the finals that one year, how he's played in the
But
playoffs.
what have you done for me lately?
Well, and that's the key, and there's always that point in a person's career, and I'm not saying that Jay has hit that point. Last year could be an anomaly, and he could have a great bounce back season plan for somebody this coming year. I'm not sure where he's going to wind up. But I thought the Jay Crowder move was a good move in terms of what was expected of him, but he struggled. He struggled to knock down shots, and when you have the kind of lineup that this team was fielding, and then when you lose Dame Lillard in the playoffs and Giannis, and you need somebody to pick up the slack and give you 15 to 18 every night, that just wasn't who Jay was this particular season. So in a Torian Prince, we've got a guy that shot 38% for his career from the 3-point line, almost 40% last year with the Lakers, 38 the year before, 38, and then 42 like 4 years ago. So he is a reliable catch and shoot guy. He brings a level of toughness, having played at Baylor. He's a San Antonio, Texas dude that played.
He's got super long arms too.
Does he? Okay, he's one of those. So he's got that.
He's got like a 7'1", 7'2" wingspan or something crazy.
Does he? Okay. Earl Warren High School in San Antonio. Somebody else played at Earl Warren. Was it Tyler Smith? Somebody else from Tyler maybe from Houston. But anyway, he gives the Bucks a whole lot of versatility in terms of lineup combinations, playing Giannis at the 5, small ball lineups. He can play the 3, he can play the 4, he can guard the 3, guard the 4, move Chris Middleton around as you see fit. And he just gives you so much tremendous flexibility that then again, he made over $4 million last year to get him come in here for the veterans minimum, with eyes on a bigger prize, get a bigger payday after having a great year. So I like it because both he and Delon Wright, they've got motivation. Guys are always self-motivated. Most guys like this, role players, been around to a lot of different teams, have kind of had to find their way through different systems, different schemes and all that kind of stuff. So I like that too. I like the fact he's played for 4 or 5 different teams, and so he's had to adjust, make the adjustment, play with different big time personalities. And so Giannis and Dame won't be just play with Anthony Davis and LeBron, right? So if you can find your niche playing with AD and LeBron, you'll be able to do so with Giannis and Dame. So Torian Prince, welcome to the Cream City. And then finally, the last acquisition, and maybe the piece de resistance. I mean, Jon Horst, you got to get some votes for Executive of the Year.
No doubt.
This off?
No doubt.
Are you going to get some votes for Executive of the Year, Jon Horst?
No doubt.
How did he do it? How did he snag?
How did the Lakers not get Gary Trent?
God, how did and so you're listening to the Summer League game interview with Doc Rivers and PJ Carlesimo. And PJ was like, so Doc, what have you been doing this summer? And Doc was like, well, PJ, they kind of talking like both of them. But Doc was saying, I've been recruiting. I've been out recruiting. And, we come to find out that Doc had a relationship with the Shaq of the MAC, the Shaq of the MEAC, wherever Ohio University is, Gary Trent Jr. But he went to Miami, wherever their off-season digs are, and pitched the Bucks to Gary Trent Jr. And Chris, I'm not sure how much you've watched Toronto and the Bucks play the last 2.5, 3 years since Gary Trent Jr.'s been in Toronto. This dude has killed us, man.
Good.
He's absolutely killed. He's put up huge numbers, hit big shots, led comebacks. We've had major 20-point leads, and Coach Bud took out the starters too early, and Gary Trent got on fire and brought them back, and may have beaten us in that game in Toronto. I think we might have won it in overtime. But that's what I've been watching. And I've been sitting there marveling, 6'5", chisel, 210, 25 years old, played at Duke, with about 4 or 5 other high school All-Americans. So there's there's that elite level competitiveness that he kind of brings with him. Yeah. So man, I just can't say enough about this. I think he played with Dame in Portland for 2 years. So there's a familiarity between these two guys already. They don't have to get to know each other. Mm-mm. It's not that Pat Bev Dame animosity that you got to go to dinner to work through. They're already cool. No, they're already cool. And that's, go ahead.
No, but I think you're going to see that relationship the foundation of that relationship. It's going to pay dividends early in terms of chemistry. Like the chemistry side of things is going to be figured out quick. The communication is going to be better. Like no matter what like you just talked about with the Pat Bev thing and last year's roster with some of those guys, some of those personalities, I get the sense with this crew that's in here now with these guys and these personalities, it's going to fit and mesh a lot better than last year's construction, in my opinion. It just seems like it.
No, and it's guys that have been role players at a lot of different stops that understand their roles, are comfortable with their roles, will embrace their roles. And I read something online. I forget who the author of this site was, but he made some really great points about Gary Trent Jr. He talked about what's that general manager's name? Masai Ujiri. Masai Ujiri. But he talked about how they traded for Gary Trent and they got a racehorse, and then they tried to turn him into a plow horse. They tried to make him this defensive stopper. Oh. And that really wasn't who he is, though he did work on it and improve in that area.
He's a bucket.
Yeah. But this is what the article was talking about, right. And just the whole developmental approach with the Raptors. Now, I'm not going to comment on that one way or the other, but with Gary Trent Jr. in specifics, it was talking about how he was just never – he had the 1 year, like 2 or 3 years ago, a couple of years ago, where he averaged like 18 points a game, had a great shooting year. He was down to about 13, 14 points last year. They were trying to make him more defensive-minded. And to that point, he's one of, I believe, 4 guys – Halliburton and Van Vliet, and I forgot the third guy that has like 500 3-pointers made and 300 steals. Jeez. You know, in the last 2 or 3 years, the last 2 years, I believe it is. Wow. And so he is playing some really, really good defense, but he competes. It's just something about him that I like in terms of how he goes out there and goes after it. You know what I mean? He goes after it, and he's going to be, I think, a great addition to this Milwaukee Bucks basketball team.
And I think when you think about these guys, how they're going to contribute on the defensive end and how the Bucks defense is going to shape up schematically and how Doc is going to, put the pieces where they go, man, it's going to be a lot better than last year. Like these guys, you put them with Brooke, Giannis, Kris, Dame, all that. Now it's good. I feel like it's going to be a much more efficient and solid defensive team that we're going to see a lot less of the mental lapses defensively, less of the technical stuff, bad closeouts, weird communication. I think all that stuff that we saw the Bucks go through and have to iron out and have, over and over again, these big lapses and stuff, not in the ability to not run with teams like the Warriors and other people like that. That's not happening this year. This is going to be these guys are coming in, and you have shored up the Bucks defensively as well as added some offensive firepower.
Well, and I think because of the coaching staff and how that's been retooled, adding Darvin Ham and Greg Buckner and Jason Love and Spencer Rivers to go along with the holdovers, Dave Yeager and Rex Kalamian, Pete Dominguez, Joe Prunty, Ben Baby. That's really – Doc Rivers is saying this is maybe the best staff, man, that he's ever worked with. And that's a big key, too. You got some really great voices in this staff in terms of experience and elite level accomplishments that know how to get you there on that path to that championship path that this team wants to embark upon this season.
Absolutely. And all those guys are well respected in that locker room too. So that's not going to, so that's a plus.
And finally, as we already welcome Gary Trent to the Cream City.
Yes, sir. GTJ. What up, boy?
And before we close, I've always got to pay my respects to the women's game. And they just enhanced their value a little bit, right? Because of what Reese's Pieces, Angel Reese is doing out there on the floor with all those double-doubles. That's the reason for all this TV money come flowing in.
I mean, obviously being silly, we know that it's a combination of everything. But the major thing is Caitlin Clark. No, so I think what happened is the WNBA is renegotiating their television rights deal to the figures that have been thrown around, $2.2 billion over 11 years, something like 6 times more. I was thinking about it this morning, just how that's going to affect their salary cap, which means it's going to affect how many players they can carry, which also means that they're going to be able to carry more rookies on a regular basis. So now you can see a true WNBA sort of developmental process take place because you got more money. That means more people, more staff, and more ability to do stuff that with players. Players. So I mean, not so when people focus on the travel and sort of all these ancillary things, I'm thinking about how this money is going to affect and fundamentally shift the way rosters are built. Because now you're going to be able to afford like big fours and big threes and just a different style. So
yeah, and the game is exploding. And so, I was down in Louisville for a tournament over the weekend.
Nice.
And 130 courts at the Kentucky Exposition Center,
Sure.
Just 50, 60 team, all ladies, all girls, all young ladies.
Sport court.
And I saw a young lady. I got to give her a special shout out because she is a baller that is going to be heard from. And I like to kind of identify these young players that I see that I really like. And her name is Addie Archer, 13 years old, was playing with the Russell Westbrook team. Why not? The 15U, so playing up, a couple of grades, 8th grader, going into the 8th grade. And Kris, she was a walking bucket. She reminded me of Anita Ortega. We talked about her with Ann Myers a couple of weeks back, but she was able to draw fouls, play through contact. She had the ball one time on the left box, and she went middle, and I kept saying, spinning, and I said, and winning. And the people from the Why Not team just laughed sitting next to me because that move was routine for her. So Addison Archer is a name that I want you to kind of file away. And in 4 or 5 years, when she blows up, I can remind everybody out there that it was old school that first kind of threw that name out there. So I always want to give these young ladies a shout because the game is exploding. You talked about the TV deal, Caitlin Clark, what she is meant to the league. And I started off with Angel, but Caitlin Clark is a special talent. She's been doing some stuff recently that no other player has done in either league in terms of assists and rebounds and points scored and all that. And it's just happy to see, mainly because I'm happy for the ladies, but also because I have a daughter at 14 who has aspirations of going as far as she can in the game. And the other point, and this is the final point, but we had talked about this before, talking about this young lady, Addison Archer. I was talking to her mom earlier, and she told me that she started her first 2 or 3 years of development playing against nothing but boys.
Yep.
And we've talked about how that's a recurring theme with a lot of these great lady ball players, really getting that experience playing against dudes. So when they play against girls who are not as athletic, not as quick, not as strong, the game's a little bit easier. So that kind of bears out our premise that the people who are interested in developing their daughters, that's just one other thing to kind of look at, right? I mean, in terms of the whole developmental picture.
That's the number one thing to look at. So that's the number one thing you have to get going with your daughter at an early age. Put her in the boys' leagues, put her co-ed basketball, have fine dudes that she can play against. Even when she's in middle school, high school, whatever, just make sure that that's part of the daily diet. Also, I wanted to shout out my boy, Leon Watson, who is Asia Wilson's security guy. Big Leon. Who's my that's my teammate. So Leon was my teammate at Crenshaw High School. Leon, one of Leon's claim to fame in high school was he actually broke a backboard on a tip dunk in a shattered. I mean, literally shattered the backboard, and the rim landed on his shoulder and tore off half of his shoulder. But that guy,
white meat.
But now he's Asia Wilson, the tremendous forward from the Las Vegas Aces. He's her security guy. Shout out to my man. Asia is off the hook. Are you familiar with Asia's game at all, MJ?
That's the lefty, the kind of the lefty with the great lefty with she got that straight up and down kind of lefty. She reminds me of somebody, an NBA person. I have to give it some thought. But
she is one of the nicest ever. She is one of the nicest ever.
I get excited thinking about that lefty face up jump shot fake.
Nice.
Love watching her play. And that's what lets you know that the women's game, how far it's evolved, because man, when you can get it just as excited watching Asia do work, watching Caitlin Clark do work, watching some of these
Angel
other ladies
Reese.
do work as you do as watching, LeBron or Steph or some of these other people, man, it means it's come a long way, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. All right. Old school, Marques Johnson, fantastic voyage. First mate Kris Johnson, man, we talked about so much, Summer League, people that have been doing great, people that need to pick it up. We've talked about the acquisitions, the free agent signings that the masterful Jon Horst has done with a shoestring budget, if you can call it a shoestring, and maybe even smaller than a shoe, like a baby shoestring, like a baby shoe. Baby shoe. It's a baby shoestring. It's like that big. And man, he's done a dynamic job of really, really improving his basketball team. And we welcome the new guys aboard, and man, just can't wait for this thing to continue. So, hey, check us out next week. It's always something evolving in the basketball world, and you can best believe that we'll have it for you right here in Here District, the Fantastic Voyage. We'll see you next week.
This has been a Bucks Plus audio production.